Joining us now to discuss a lot of news is former New York City Mayor and the newest member of President Trump's legal team, Mr. Rudy Giuliani. Mr. Mayor, always a pleasure. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me back.
Two matters of news to discuss, and then we have to get into this full-throated conversation about what you believe is happening with the probe. First, are you okay?
Oh, yeah, I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine.
So, reports about the pedicab?
Yeah, the pedicab took more damage, I think.
All right. So what I heard was, tell me if this is right or wrong, that in the side view mirror, you saw a squeegee guy, or what you thought was a squeegee guy.
I jumped out of the car.
And you opened the door into him. Is that
Almost.
true?
Actually, I saw Chris Christie, and I wanted to prevent him from destroying the pedicab.
All right, good. So you're good. That's good to know. This news that you believe that, according to the special counsel and their investigative team, there may be a narrowing of questions. Is that accurate?
Yes, it is. It's accurate as of Wednesday night. Wednesday night we received a communication from them. Now we did go through like 5 letters. We didn't get a response, and then they sent us a response. I can't go into detail, but narrowing the subjects for questioning down to about 2, and
from all like 50 of those.
Yeah,
that list that came out from Sekulow.
You could actually have divided those, and I did, into like 5 categories, subject areas.
All right, that's fair. 5, maybe 7.
So 3 are down, are out. I mean, no secret that the whole thing with Michael Cohen's out, because that's in the Southern District of New York.
You believe that Mueller has turned over all of that investigation, or do you think he may have reserved certain aspects?
It's my belief that he turned all of it over. Now,
all of it.
That doesn't mean they don't communicate, as they should. They should communicate.
Or that he could reclaim an aspect of it based on findings?
That would send us a signal that he believed there was a connection to the president. As long as he leaves it there, he believes there isn't a connection to the president, which seems, from everything I know, to be correct. Whatever you think of it, that's an independent issue, and it doesn't depend at all on the resolution of this one.
All right. So as far as you know, Mueller isn't looking at Cohen. That's about the Southern District.
And the Southern District basically isn't looking at the president. If he's in the rearview mirror somewhere, who knows? But we'll keep an eye on that.
So that's off the table. What else is off the table?
I can't really say. The rest, and some of it is subject to negotiation. The main focus that we want, I can tell you simply, is Russia. Was there a connection with Russia? We see that the report in the New York Times, which we think is sort of a prophecy of what's going to be revealed by Horowitz, who's the IG of Justice, is that as of the beginning of the Mueller investigation, after a 100-day investigation, the FBI found no connection with President Trump for Russia. Now, here's the issue that I really feel strongly about with this informant, if there is one. First of all, I don't know for sure, nor does the president, if there really was one. We're told that.
Told that by whom?
We're told that by people who, for a long time, we've been told that there was some kind of infiltration. At one time, the president thought it was a wiretap. There were some FISA applications, but we've never been notified that he was on a tap or an intercept.
There's never been any proof that he was on a wiretap either.
No, but
he did say it as fact many times.
I think he thought that. I know,
but that doesn't make it true. That's part of the problem with understanding this situation. The president feels something, states it as fact. There winds up being no proof, but now you have a lot of people who believe it.
He may turn out to be closer to the truth than people thought, because we're told there were 2 infiltrations, 2 embedded people in the campaign. And
now, when you say you were told, just let's clear the record. You mean you're gleaning this from the reporting that's out there?
No, the reporting corroborates what people have told us off the record. You don't know if they're right or not. There are people who knew a little about the investigation, either are gone from the FBI.
The president this morning is quoting a Fox News commentator as his source of being concerned about this. This is a man who has almost plenary authority to pick up the phone and say to the DOJ, did you put somebody in my campaign?
That would probably, with the DOJ and the current situation that it's in, so frightened of any intrusion, that'd be probably really misunderstood. Look, they should tell us if there was. I mean, their obligation is on them
The president has not been shy about talking to people at the top of the investigation about what he wants to know. He asked the person running the investigation to say publicly he was cleared.
As his lawyer, I think that has to go through the White House counsel's office or possibly us. Shouldn't go through him. But I want to know, because I believe if there was an embedded person, that person cleared us because the FBI cleared us. I wonder what the heck is the legitimacy of the Mueller investigation in the first place. The FBI came to the conclusion there was no evidence of collusion with Russia. End of case.
How do we know that?
It's in the New York Times yesterday, paragraph 50.
Let's just go on the record here also. Rudy Giuliani, president's lawyer, is using the New York Times as a good source. A source that the president assails only because it suits his advantage in the moment.
But Chris...
It's good to hear you own
Chris,
that the media should be trusted.
Every once in a while. Chris, the reality is the New York Times is trying to take the wind out of the sails of the Horowitz report. The Horowitz report, I guarantee, is going to be far worse.
Look, we haven't seen the report. We all welcome it.
Yeah,
what we know
saw what he
for
did
sure...
to McCabe, right? He nailed McCabe as a flat-out liar.
Well, yes.
And then Comey disowned McCabe.
Yes.
Loyal. Comey.
And why am I pausing? Because what he was lying about also matters, and it is not something that goes to the truth of what you want to push, which is that the probe is out to get the president.
But he's a liar.
Fine. I'm not disputing that, nor have I ever.
And
what I'm saying is
Comey?
he was lying.
Comey's a flat-out leaker.
But hold on a second. One at a time. What McCabe was doing was fanning the flames of his own intentions about going after Hillary Clinton.
Right.
So that does not shed any light unless you use the old legal Latin edict of falsus in uno, falsus in tuto. He lied about one thing, so he's lying about everything. He is not proof of a dirty probe against Trump. That's what you and the president are pushing, which is easier for him to do than you in a way, which we'll get to later.
Chris.
He wants to say the probe is wrong,
right,
that it is dirty,
right,
and that it is out to get him. And he is using, we do not know that any of that is true.
That's for sure. It is.
How is it
true? First of all, it's based on an illegitimate source, Comey. Comey writes a memo. Clearly FBI property. I'm sorry, he's the FBI director. Can't get around that. He then does something for which FBI agents would be fired and maybe go to jail. He leaks the memo to a professor who gives it to the press with the intention of getting it to the press.
Maybe not, right? That analysis of what he did is more complex. Huh?
Because he's a damn liar. Jim Comey can't be trusted on anything. Of course he leaked it.
But he said that he leaked it. So how is he a liar?
Well, he's a liar because he said he didn't think that the professor was going to necessarily give it out to the press.
No, he
said
they
were going to talk about it.
It's not what he said in the interviews I saw. He said the opposite. He said, I gave it to him to distribute it. I didn't do it myself because I thought that would create different compromises.
Because I'm a sneaky liar.
No, that's what you say.
That's the conclusion.
But that's also not what started the probe.
Yes, it is. The probe went to Mueller because all of a sudden Sessions had recused himself. Rosenstein decided he needed a special prosecutor, and Rosenstein goes and selects the guy that Trump had just turned down for FBI director.
Hold on.
Figure that.
Two questions. One, he didn't turn him down. He met with him about working for the FBI, and then he got picked special counsel right after it.
Totally wrong.
The reporting on it is that he never said to him.
That's why the reporting is wrong.
So you're saying that the president told Bob Mueller, you're not getting the FBI job.
He wasn't getting the FBI job. I don't think we should have a rerun.
In what context?
In the context of right after the interview.
No, so, well.
And within, I don't know if it's a day or 2 days when he was selected.
Well, hold on. Why would the President of the United States call Rosenstein and say, hey, I just interviewed Bob Mueller for FBI, he's not getting the job?
That's what I did all the time if I didn't want somebody.
But why would you call the head of the
narrowing.
What does he have to do with it? He doesn't get to pick the head of the FBI.
Nobody sat in on the interview.
But why would he have called him about that?
Because he sat in on the interview. He's sharing his thoughts with him. I would do that.
And so then hearing that the president doesn't think he's fit for the FBI, Rosenstein then says, I think he's perfect for the special counsel.
I guess.
Why would Rosenstein do that?
I don't know why Rosenstein has done a lot of things he's done. I don't know why he would expand.
The president picked him, so it's the president's guy.
Didn't pick him. Jeff picked him.
And whose guy is Jeff Sessions?
Totally different. My commissioners would pick people. I didn't know if they were good or bad.
I'm just saying that's a little bit of a shaky scenario.
You're really getting off the point. The point is that the whole investigation is totally illegitimate. The question of whether there was collusion with the Russian had been resolved in the first investigation by the FBI, which the Times revealed, which Horowitz is going to analyze in a couple of weeks. And in that investigation, there's a memo that says that there's at least twice, no evidence of collusion with the Russians on the part of Donald Trump. End of story.
But how
shouldn't be an investigation.
But
no probable cause for anything.
But we don't know what Mueller has and doesn't have, especially you. If anybody's going to respect the process,
now Mueller comes after the fact. I'm not blaming Mueller.
But you're leaving out a huge event that precipitated the special counsel.
What?
The firing of James Comey
and what's wrong with that?
by the President of the United States. Well, arguably, nothing or a lot because of why he did it.
Well,
which he has jumped around
Tell
on.
me what the why would be. The why would be to interfere with the investigation. When in fact, he said a couple of days later to Lester Holt, I knew it would expand the investigation. I knew it would extend the investigation. Sorry.
No.
It would take longer.
The way I understand it is that it was said by the president and people around him, not you at the time, that he fired him had nothing to do with the Russia investigation. Then he gives the interview with Lester Holt and says that it wasn't the Rosenstein memo, which is the original premise. Right. It was, I was going to fire him anyway because I don't like this Russia probe.
How about
and that's what got him in deep water.
Only because people wanted to trap him.
How about he trapped himself?
It did not. How about there were 5 reasons to fire Rosenstein? To fire
Freudian slip.
How about there were 5 reasons?
There's going to be nobody left if you guys have your way.
Oh, there'll be a lot of people left.
There'll be new people.
Maybe
Sessions has got to go. Rosenstein's got to go.
Not Jeff. I mean, Jeff's a good man, but maybe honorable people.
Now he's a good man. The president has maligned Jeff Sessions again and again and again over his tenure, short as it's been.
Maybe we can have some honorable men there, not Jeff Sessions. So I'll leave it at that. Jeff's been a friend for 30 years. I think the president has complex views about him because maybe he could have stepped up and handled this a little better. If I were the attorney general, the case would be dismissed now over the improprieties in the case.
Is that the right thing?
Now, how about Manafort? First guy they prosecute is Manafort. And Rosenstein, we want to talk about Rosenstein, gives them permission to do it. Now, Manafort's case is in 2005. It had already been investigated.
But may also include
how could that
activities that they believe he was doing during his time with Trump and before.
Then investigate Manafort all by himself.
They are.
No, they're not. They're investigating as part of the special counsel investigation. The Justice Department should be investigating that. There's no need for a special counsel, nor was there a need for $20 million expended.
Then why did Rosenstein pick one?
Because he's scared.
Of what?
He's scared that he's going to have the thing kind of land on him. His boss recused himself.
Why did Jeff Sessions recuse himself?
But Rosenstein, Jeff Sessions recused himself because he worked on the Trump campaign, and he felt he was too close. And I guess
was that the right move?
I can't criticize it. The president, maybe as not being a lawyer, criticized it. He could have made either decision. Not
being a lawyer or wanting to smear anybody who seems suggestive of anything that is critical of him.
That's just simply not fair.
How is it not fair?
If you're under
in the context
investigation
of
and
what
you're an
he's
innocent,
done to Jeff Sessions?
How about what Jeff Sessions has done to him?
What has he done to him?
What Jeff Sessions has done to him is stick him with a special counsel because he didn't step up and say, I can make this decision. Stick him with a special counsel that has now $20 million later come up with nothing.
How is it
doesn't want to say that?
Him, first of all.
And explain to me why they even need an interview with the president if it isn't to try to trap him into perjury, which is what the judge in the Manafort case has said about them.
All right,
they basically are trapping people into perjury.
All right, let's not flood the zone. One, you can't compellingly argue that that's what they do in these kinds of sessions. You were a master of those sessions.
What are you talking about?
That it's just a perjury trap. That's why they want to talk to him. One, it's only a perjury trap if the president won't tell the truth.
No. Oh, God, Chris,
and
that's not true.
And you should have more faith
that's not true.
in those men and women, especially when you've said they're the best people that you've ever worked with. It is not true that
a perjury trap is just when you're not telling the truth. A perjury trap is when you get somebody to lie about what you're telling the truth, which is the president would testify tomorrow if it was about the truth. The truth is he had nothing to do with Russia. I was on that campaign. He didn't talk to Russians. He had nothing to do with Russia. He is as surprised about the Russian connection as you would be.
And why won't he just sit down and say that?
Because you've got people that are going to ask him questions about what did you say to him, what did you say to him, and you got Comey coming forward who will lie. They believe Comey rather than... Look, it's like Martha Stewart. Martha Stewart never would have gone to jail if she hadn't gone and testified. What do you think, we're stupid?
She lied. She lied. I covered that case.
Lying is black and white. It isn't black and white. The president is not going to lie. Let's get that straight. President is going to tell...
What gives you confidence to say
Because
that?
I've gone over the whole thing. I've investigated the whole thing. There's nothing to lie about.
Out of habit, he practices mendacity.
Out
of habit,
that's a disgraceful comment about the president of the United States. Out of habit, the president defends himself against the press that spends time lying.
He abuses the truth. He misleads, he misstates, and he sometimes lies.
We want to talk about liars.
Which is saying something that he knows is untrue, and he does it to deceive.
If we're talking about liars, why don't we talk about Comey, who's a proven liar?
Because one liar at a time. And the president of the United States matters most here.
That's the guy they are going to trust against the president.
Look,
and as his lawyer...
You don't know that. And
Of
if
course
anything,
I know that.
why wouldn't they be deferential to the President of the United States
Because
and not somebody
then they're going to
else?
have to explain how the hell they wasted $20 million on an investigation that begins without any evidence and ends without any evidence.
Here's my
$20 million later?
First of all,
Whoa.
so far we know it's 7. And by the way, let's say it was 70. Let's say it were 700.
Why don't they want to give the
by
documents,
government standards?
Why don't they want to give the documents to the House about how much money it costs?
Why do you think Devin Nunes has been a fair broker in this? As he runs to the White House
then give him to the
work
Senate.
hand in glove
Then
with
give
them
it to the
on a
Senate.
supposedly independent probe. He had to step away. He had to get investigated
Man,
for ethics considerations.
Anybody who defends the president is some kind of a scoundrel, and anybody who lies about him is okay. Is that right?
Who says?
You do.
No way. When have I ever said that?
You're telling me, you're talking to me about Comey, about Rosenstein. You're talking to me about Jeff Sessions having done nothing wrong. I mean, come on.
No. I asked you, what did he do that was wrong? And it seems to be your answer is he stuck the president with this special counsel. So what's Jeff Sessions' job? To cover the back of the president?
No, his
or to
job is
uphold
do
the Constitution?
He didn't uphold the Constitution. You don't need a special counsel in this case. Nobody else in the Justice Department is recused because Sessions is recused. So Rosenstein.
That's why Rosenstein is there.
Well, then why? Okay, so then Rosenstein should be handling the case. He doesn't need a special counsel. No, he's not. He's given to a special counsel, and he'll have
his
review
judgment,
power.
he believed that he needed one. And both sides of the aisle stood up and said, Bob Mueller is a great guy.
Both sides of the aisle are protecting their backside. I mean, none of them.
And the president isn't?
Well,
and you're not in the business of doing that now for the president?
Well, I'd be violating my oath as a lawyer if I was.
True, but here's where you're compromised on this. And this is why I've been asking you to come on. I remember.
You wanted me to come on because I'm compromised?
No, not at all. I want you to come on because you're fundamental to our understanding of this and where the president's mind is on what he wants to happen. And I appreciate you taking the opportunity. You know that. You have lived a life where you were fundamental to the operation of justice on the federal level, okay? You've held the jobs and been in key components of the authority structure of what is now under scrutiny. If anybody else were sitting in that chair making these arguments, I just deal with the arguments. But when Rudy Giuliani says stormtroopers, when Rudy Giuliani says that there is dirty at the top and that they would set a perjury trap and that these people are out to get him,
Judge Ellis said that.
You have spent decades of my life telling me when I would come to you personally and say, oh, the government, oh, look at their surveillance, look what they're doing. You said, these are the best men and women we have. Don't judge what's going on by attacking their character. You're doing the opposite right now.
No, I'm not.
You called them stormtroopers. They went into Michael Cohen's.
How about Manafort?
No. How about Michael Cohen? That's what you called them stormtroopers.
Well, they invaded the attorney-client privilege. How? I never did that. I never searched the lawyer's office.
Stormtroopers.
You don't go into a
Nazi foot soldiers.
You don't go into a man's house in the morning for a case that's 10 years old.
Did they have a warrant?
Of course they had a warrant, but I didn't get a warrant.
Were they professional when they went? Were they courteous?
No, I don't know if they were.
Michael Cohen says they were.
Well, I don't know if they were.
But he says they were. Wouldn't he know?
I sure as heck would be very upset if I were Michael's lawyer about their coming into
Michael
his
Cohen
law.
was very upset.
First of all, you're mixing up Manafort and
But you're still calling them stormtroopers.
Both of them.
You know better than to call
I don't know better, Chris. I know to say it. They are. And stick with it. And accept it and own it. You are
that the men and women working for the FBI are stormtroopers.
The men and women were off base in what they did. Do they act inappropriately sometimes? Do you get a big liar like Comey, a big liar like McCabe in the FBI, a guy with a conflict of interest from day one on the Hillary investigation, which is why he's lying to cover his ass? Of course you get that. You get bad people in the FBI, mostly good people. You get bad people in justice. You get bad people in both parties. Yes, we get bad people, and it's my job to flush them out, and it's my job to do justice. And if you can tell me that this investigation is worth the time that it's gotten and the money that it's spent, then you don't know what you're talking about.
Unquestionably.
This is an unjustifiable
You know what's interesting about this situation? I've now been told that I don't know what I'm talking about by you and by Nancy Pelosi about the same thing. Well, and both of you were wrong.
We're both Italian, and we might be right.
And here's why. You were both wrong. Here's why. We know that Russian interference was real. Okay? We know that they wanted to do it and they were successful in many of their efforts. We know that they did it because they wanted to help Trump and hurt Clinton. We need to get to the answers of why they did it, how they did it, who might have helped them, and how to stop it the next time.
Well, the Democratic Party probably helped them with the dossier and everything else.
Come on.
That's part of the basis for the investigation.
Come on.
The totally totally corrupt dossier that was developed on the president. And if you're asking me, who've committed crimes here? The crimes have been committed by the investigators. Illegal leaking, lying about relevant matters, invasions of the attorney-client privilege, which are unethical, not criminal.
It was carried by warrant. You have a great judge, who I'm sure you'll agree with, in Kimballwood, appointing a special master, letting the teams apportion what they see as privileged information, having her look at it.
The master has said that she's very concerned about the violation of the attorney-client
Which is why she's put in place. If she had no concerns about it, you wouldn't need one.
The documents are probably going to get...
But they're following the law. They're following the law, Rudy. You should respect that as much as anybody.
I respect it immensely. That's why I'm fighting it out in court.
But you're maligning the whole process. You're saying they violated it.
Well, you're telling me that you can violate my client's rights, and I have to just accept it?
No,
because I have a lot more
I'm saying that you shouldn't
Chris.
Assume that they violated the rights and that they acted inappropriately. But you're saying they are.
I have practiced law for years. I've never heard of searching a lawyer's office for documents about a client.
You know it happens. I'm sure you've done it.
I did not, Chris.
You were known as a muscled-up guy when you were at the Southern District.
I wasn't a muscle guy. Get out of here.
You didn't do strong things. You didn't take aggressive action. You weren't aggressive in investigations.
And I do as a lawyer for my clients. And my client is being unfairly prosecuted now. He's being unfairly... No, he's not being prosecuted. And we haven't pointed out he can't be indicted either. He cannot be indicted. You want to dispute that with me?
I think that it's a question of process. I know that. No, but listen. Here's why.
Process?
I know what the guidance is from the DOJ. I know the cases it stems from.
And you know that the special counsel is governed by that guidance.
100%.
And the case would be dismissed.
I mean, look. I guess theoretically he could choose to ignore it, but you've been told they won't.
I am told they won't after some hesitation of 2 days, which kind of puzzled me. Second, if they do, they know it'll be dismissed.
Fine.
And if they do, the Justice Department would probably.
Right, that's fine. But first of all, just to not go too down this rabbit hole, I'm not disputing it. But hold on, this is an important point. I think we have a graphic on it. If we do have the options for Mueller, you can put it up. Otherwise, I'll just detail them. He could not indict the president. He could forego the guidance and indict the president. He could do something that's far more likely in this situation, which is we need to investigate. We need to put together the facts, and then the process with the president is different than it would be for you or me. He'd need to be removed from office first through impeachment, then he could be indicted later, or he could indict co-conspirators right now and send a message that was coupled with a reference for impeachment. So when you say you can't indict the president, I think we're talking about true, but also a function of process.
Long answer now, I think, equals you can't indict.
But I think you have to understand it as to why you can and what you still could do, and how in any way does that affect his ability to comply with the subpoena. If he is subpoenaed...
What subpoena?
If he were subpoenaed, the President of the United States, not being able to be indicted is irrelevant. But he still has to comply.
Wrong.
Why?
The people reading the memo selectively read it. The memo says you cannot indict the president, nor can you issue criminal process with regard to a case involving the president. Now, you're saying to me, well, what happened with Nixon? Nixon was documents. We've already turned documents over.
Okay.
We didn't raise any privilege. 1.4 million documents,
right,
from which the case should be resolved. Number two, if you apply that ruling, there is no case in which a president has complied with a subpoena for his person. A subpoena ad personam, in personam.
Clinton.
No, he didn't.
Sure he did.
No, they removed the subpoena. He did, and then he
because he complied and he went before the grand jury.
He did not comply. He negotiated terms for a 2.5-hour interview, which they wanted much, much more, and he did it on video feed, and he had control of the questions beforehand, or at least approval over the questions beforehand. Something that we're trying to negotiate, by the way, with this.
You can cut your own deal. You can negotiate terms. That's fine. But no
president has ever complied with a subpoena.
He complied. He spoke in front of the grand jury.
He removed the subpoena. And then his Justice Department, I got the memo right here, his Justice Department issued an opinion in 2000 saying a president cannot be subject to criminal process. To reiterate that, because they were afraid the president had given away a prerogative of Article 2.
Then why, when asked about that situation in 1998, did you say, president can't duck a subpoena? Well, if you get subpoenaed, you got to comply. You got to go.
He can't. I never heard of a subpoena for the president's person.
Well, you said exactly that.
No.
Subpoena, and you went on to say...
Chris, let's distinguish between a subpoena for documents and a subpoena that takes the president out of the Oval Office and puts him in front of a grand jury or hearing. Can't do it. Can't do it the second. You can do the first.
Well, you never did that distinction before.
Well, it never occurred to me they would try to subpoena the president.
That's exactly what was going on in 1998. But people are going to say I'm making this up. Here's Charlie Rose with you in the interview, and then you tell me what you meant.
Come on.
What, you don't want to hear it?
It's not even relevant.
If the president is asked to testify, subpoenaed
That's
to
really
testify
unfair.
before
What you're doing right
jury.
now is extremely unfair.
I'm giving you a
reason
chance
people
to
don't come
explain
on the
it.
show.
Oh, stop.
Not going to do it.
With all that
do it.
promoting of
You don't have a
Avenatti,
choice.
ambulance
What happens if Robert Mueller
What does that have to do with
subpoenas
this?
the president?
Because they're all trying to bring Trump into that, and he's not involved in it, Chris.
Look, Avenatti has been getting fed information that has wound up being more true than not, mostly about Michael Cohen, okay? What he's doing on TV, that's his business and the people who put him on. I'm talking to you about this, and it matters. And I play that piece of sound. It's not my decision who comes on and not on all the time. With people like you, where I chase you around and I ask you very much to come on because I think it matters, that's my call. But he's not my concern, and you know that. What is my concern is I played that piece of sound because I want to give you the benefit to give answers in context. Because otherwise people just beat you over the head with it.
Play it, and it's very explainable.
Well, I did play it. They heard it.
I am talking about a subpoena for documents, which doesn't take you out of your office, rather than a subpoena for your person, which I never contemplated anyone would suggest.
But that's exactly what they were asking Clinton to do.
Yes, but
sit down and answer questions about this.
Clinton was opposing it.
Right, but he eventually wound up sitting, and you say that legally that's because he had to.
If you give me a subpoena and we negotiate terms and you withdraw the subpoena, I have not complied with the subpoena. The subpoena is now dead.
But you wind up in the same place, effectively, which is answering questions under oath.
No problem, but with conditions. Now,
fine.
Because there was lack of clarity after my statement, not just me, God almighty, professors, whatever, the Justice Department wrote an opinion, which we're all bound by if we work for the Justice Department, which is you cannot issue criminal, they call it criminal process.
Right.
You can't issue criminal process to the president. End of story. Can't do it unless you change that opinion. If Mueller did it, the Justice Department could take the subpoena right back.
Or you could just litigate it.
Yeah, but
right? You could subpoena him and you could litigate it.
I'd go right to the Attorney General. I'd say, Jeff, put on big boy pants and you go take it away.
Oh, but he's recused from this.
Then I go to Rosenstein and say, you want to try the big boy pants on for size? You put them on and you get rid of the subpoena.
All right,
and he would have to do it or he'd have to quit.
All right, so I hear where you are legally on that. We'll see what happens if that comes to pass.
I have two reasons why we're not getting that. One, I believe we can work out conditions.
Yes.
That may be a little too optimistic, and not everybody agrees with me. And a lot of lawyers disagree with me, but my client agrees with me.
Okay.
And second, if we don't, I don't believe they'll subpoena him. They
Why
don't
not?
want it because they have the.
How does he end the probe without speaking to the president?
I ended most of my criminal probes without speaking to the subject. I decided.
What is a no-go zone for you? What is off the table? If this is on the table, we will not sit.
12 hours is sting there. They're going to.
Time.
They're going to ponder this for another 3 or 4 months. They're going to ask any question they want. We're going to go into all this Manafort and this one and that one.
So Manafort's off the table? Is Cohen off the table? What categories are off the table?
Honestly, what I'm saying now is unfair to the special counsel. They don't want to do all that. I would say we're talking about a difference between 2 hours and 6.
So time.
We're talking about a difference between 1 or 2 subjects and 3 or 4 subjects. And I think with regard to their writing their report, we're almost in the zone of, maybe we're disagreeing over 30 days. We're in a zone of comfort. So we're
30 days about what? When you'll do it, or how long after it they have to issue a report?
I believe kidding around, I said we get Hillary Clinton treatment. Write the report before the interview and clear her in a specious way like Comey did, and then we'll be interviewed. But they're not going to do that. And Mueller said
because this is an actual investigation that's going on, and that wasn't.
You're damn right it wasn't. Thank you for admitting that.
I've never not admitted.
Good. That was about as phony an investigation as you could get.
But they didn't believe they had grounds to go forward with an investigation.
Except they then laid out all the reasons why she should go to jail and then said no prosecutor would do it, and every prosecutor stepped up and said they should.
Well, that's not how Comey explains it.
She destroyed documents. She lied. She had people destroying documents. She had people who had got immunity and perjured themselves.
Then why wouldn't Comey, a lifelong Republican,
because he
prosecute the
believed
case?
that she was going to be president. Comey is the first FBI director, maybe since Hoover, I'm not sure Hoover did this, who was making decisions based on, she's going to get elected, so let me not do this. And let me go after Trump.
Yeah, look, nobody disagrees with you about that. He made moves that were unorthodox and wound up compromising a lot of different dynamics during the election. Let me ask you about, let's not run too far away. This has all been very helpful, by the way.
Interview or report? That's the end result here. Interview, report. Interview, report. Do you need his testimony when he's... I can break news for you, Chris. The president is not going to vary in any material respect from what he said publicly already. He's already spoken in detail
But it's
about
different
this.
when you're being asked the questions in that setting by
But it won't be-
investigators
it won't be any
with
different.
perjury hanging over your
I
head. If you don't tell
guarantee
the
you
truth.
it won't be any different. I guarantee you it won't be any different. Maybe 2%.
But what if he's not telling the truth
He is
to the
gonna tell
public,
the
and then he goes in the room and does the same? That's why
Is
people don't want you to have him
going
sit
tell
down.
the truth, and he has told the truth. He has no reason not to. There's no possible jeopardy here of any kind except from an unfair media.
Look, if that were true, then he wouldn't have jumped around with his story the way he has. He wouldn't be so itchy to undermine the probe the way he is. If he had nothing to worry about, you don't attack the process the way he is.
So what that says is you don't attack a process that is trying to victimize you unfairly. You just let him do it. And if you do, you're accused of obstructing justice.
How are they victimizing him unfairly? They've said he's not a target. They've left him alone until now. You see the way they've conducted themselves. They don't leak the way the White House does. What have they done that makes you think they're so jaundiced and bad?
They don't leak?
You think Mueller's leaking?
No, I think the FBI has leaked.
But I'm talking about the Mueller probe.
Well, they get information about Mueller. I mean, they get information about Mueller. How could the Times have written the report they did yesterday without getting confidential information in advance of the Horowitz report from the very FBI?
So let's get into this. The Washington Post and the New York Times reporting about it.
And I am going to say something about the FBI that needs to be said on behalf of the president and me. I have total respect for all of the FBI, but the people who are screwing around. And I've always felt, I put FBI agents in jail who screwed around when I was a prosecutor. I put police officers in jail. Doesn't mean I don't love the New York City Police Department. I love the New York City Police Department more than anyone.
Yeah, but now you're representing somebody's interests who wants to undermine the administration of justice in this country.
No, he doesn't.
You got Christopher Wray, his hand-picked choice to head it, comes out and says, not a witch hunt. I said that when I was being confirmed. Now that I am there, I know it even more so, not a witch hunt.
Well, it is a witch hunt.
Well, then why would Ray say it is?
That's what the Times were, because maybe he doesn't want to get involved. Maybe he wants to look like he's independent. Maybe mistakenly
Maybe he's right? How about that?
He's wrong. I know more about the case than he does.
You think you know more about this case?
Well, yes, he shouldn't know a lot about the case. I mean, the fact is it started before him. If he knows a lot about it, he's going to have a lot of problems.
How? He's in charge of the investigation on that level.
The reality is that Christopher Wray came after the investigation started. He should disassociate himself from the Comey misdeeds, because he's nothing like Comey, thank God. And there's no reason that he needs to be involved in this except to get the information that's necessary. Now, what he's got to do is plug the leaks in the FBI. You agree with that, right?
Look, people.
How did the Times?
No, I'm not anti-leak.
How,
Rudy?
well,
because I'm a journalist. I like leaks. I like to get the information so I can test power and get transparency.
It's an offense for which they would be fired.
That's what. Look, but there's also often risk for people who leak information. You got whistleblowers all over the place that make a difference for the American people.
It is one thing. The leaker is violating the law. The leaker is violating his oath. You or me getting the information, no problem. We're entitled to get the information. And we're entitled under the First Amendment to speak about it and use it.
Right. But even though the President of the United States has raised questions about whether or not I should be able to get that information and whether or not we should be part of the hedging process on getting after leaks. You know that he said that, right?
What's hedging? I don't know what you're talking
about. That maybe one of the ways we deal with these leaks is to go after the journalists as well. You like that idea?
Well, the Clinton administration did that. I mean, the Obama administration did that too.
Holder went after journalists a little bit. It was roundly condemned.
And then the guy in Chicago put a journalist in jail.
But what I'm saying is this.
That
was wrong.
Stupid investigation.
That was wrong. You didn't like it, right?
I believe it's wrong.
But the president is suggesting that maybe you do that to us now. Is that okay?
Doesn't want to put anybody in jail. President doesn't suggest to put any of you guys in jail.
He has done exactly that, actually. Now, he'll say I was musing, I was just throwing it out there, but he has. He says we're the enemy of the American people.
Oh, you guys had broadcast from inside the jail. We'd have to let you broadcast from inside.
Look, it's not a joke.
And I'd bring you
I think about it sometimes.
No, you don't.
That maybe a day will come to pass where he wants to move on people who criticize,
now
who test
that
power.
I left my law firm, I'll represent you.
Yeah,
I'll
great.
Keep you out of jail.
Just what I need. Let me ask you something about this confidential informant story. It is troublesome that somebody, you say he shouldn't interfere. The president can find out what's going on if he wants to.
Who shouldn't?
You say the president shouldn't interfere.
If the president would interfere now, my goodness.
It's not interfering to ask whether or not you had someone inside.
Then he should ask me to do it, not him.
Fine, then he should do that instead of quoting a Fox News commentator who's saying apparently, because they don't know either. If you look at the reporting, I don't see how you guys get to your conclusion with what we know right now. It is just as likely that somebody from inside the campaign turned and came to them with information that it is that they put someone in there as you would call a spy. Again, odd for you to say, spying is a pejorative, and for you to say that they would be doing this to a president's campaign.
I say informant as regularly. Would you prefer informant? for whoever this person is?
No, I wouldn't. But people in the DOJ, people you worked with and respect, hate that word.
So we either have an embedded informant or we have a deep throat who's reporting after the fact.
You either have somebody who came from inside the campaign and said, I have information, which happens to square most with the reporting that we know. What do we know? Simpson said, he said a couple of different things, but he suggested that he knew that the FBI was getting information from the inside. We know that when Christopher Steele went to the FBI and said, here's what I found, I don't know how much of it is true or untrue, but you should know this. They said, oh, this squares with what we've been hearing from someone else, which sounds more like someone has come to them from inside to talk to them than we put someone in ourselves, because they would need a basis of knowledge to do that.
Let's go back. Let's get the conclusion first. Conclusion is no wrongdoing.
Wrongdoing of what?
By the president.
Who reaches that conclusion?
The FBI, if the Times is to be believed, that's what was leaked.
I do not get that from the
Times said there was
no
evidence of connection between President Trump and Russia.
But based on this narrow piece of what they were doing investigatively, not what Mueller has. Continue.
No, but that's what Mueller started with. Mueller started with a conclusion, nothing wrong had been done, which makes it hard for me to believe that you would start Mueller in the first place. I usually began with either some evidence the crime was committed, or certainly no contrary evidence that no crime was committed.
But unless you can show animus on the part of Rosenstein to start this in the first place, and nobody raised,
Is fear animus?
No, and nobody, and you don't have proof of fear. You don't have proof of fear either.
Rosenstein,
no one stood up in any meaningful way when he was picked, Bob Mueller, and said, "This is a travesty." It was received as something that should be done and done well, and hopefully done economically.
Nobody at the time knew whether it was a travesty or not. Now that we look back, we see that there was no reason to appoint Mueller in the first place.
No, that's what you think.
No, that's what the Times told me yesterday when I saw that they had concluded after 100 days of an investigation that there was no evidence linking Trump to Russia. Now that
has been exposed or revealed by the investigation.
And illegally leaked.
But it's not over. So we don't know.
But they never should have started.
They've indicted a ton of people. They've gotten people to plead guilty. They've sentenced somebody.
I'm sitting there in the U.S. Attorney's office, and they come to me and they say, we want you to open an investigation of Chris Cuomo. I go, why?
Which may happen, by the way.
Because we did 100 days of investigating, and we didn't find anything negative.
No, but
that's what happened with the president.
I don't think that's a fair
Now, Chris,
read.
to be fair, I don't think it was ever presented to Rosenstein that way. But that's the reality. That's the reality. And because I think the FBI didn't tell, or the Comey it was really about the firing of Comey that led to Rosenstein's
Four different.
decision.
Well, right. It's funny because you wouldn't give me that earlier on in our conversation. You had left it out of the analysis. The president firing Comey had as much to do with Rosenstein triggering a special counsel as anything else.
No reason to investigate. The president has complete discretion to fire anybody he wants.
What about corrupt intent?
Doesn't apply.
How not?
There's no evidence.
You don't think a president can obstruct justice?
He can, but in the case of firing a subordinate who's going to be replaced by somebody else on an acting basis immediately.
But it's why you fired them. Corrupt intent. That's part of the legal analysis.
It doesn't matter if, in fact, it can't result in anything. The investigation continued. Investigation expanded.
But obviously firing him charged a suspicion
I
that
recommended
he was
firing
interfering and you
Comey
needed
on
to
the
make
day.
it independent.
There were 10 reasons for firing Comey that have nothing to do with corrupt anything.
I know, except the president offered several different versions and eventually settled on, I didn't like what was happening with the Russia probe.
Well, that could be a legitimate reason. I'm not sure that was the president's reason.
Could be, or it could be corrupt. That's what he said.
But if there are five other reasons, then you can't focus on that one and pretend it's the sole reason. The man mishandled the Clinton investigation, both to the detriment of Clinton and to the detriment of Trump.
Look, it's all playing.
Was known as a consistent leaker. Way back, he was dealing with cases improperly.
But you now have someone who people respect in Mueller, okay? I know that the president's been on a little bit of a jihad against him, trying to break down. Oh, please. He has said so many pejorative things about him, about his conflicted.
Does the president ever get the benefit of the doubt with you, Chris? Ever?
Rudy.
Or on this network, which is disgusting?
I would tell you something. I think he gets the benefit of the doubt much more often than you give credit for.
Do you know that most people think that I'm crazy to come on here? That it's so unfair to the president? That
do you think this interview has been unfair?
Yeah, I do.
You think this interview has been unfair?
Absolutely.
Why?
because I don't think you've given me a chance to explain how unjust this case is. I don't think you've given me a chance to explain the basis of it with the FBI report that was faulty, the FBI report that came to the conclusion. I don't understand how a man can be prosecuted when you come to a conclusion you didn't do anything wrong. I mean, how can you investigate a man where you come to a conclusion you did anything wrong? You guys never, you didn't even play up that part of the report. Yesterday in the New York Times, I underlined the section that said, after 100 days of investigation, no evidence of collusion with the Russians.
And I would suggest that you're taking it out of the context of what the reporting was. But however, Rudy, to your main criticism, you've now said what you just said at least 5 times during this interview.
Which?
That there is no purpose for an investigation. There is no proof of it.
I had to get it in because but
I'm saying you've said it at least 5 times.
By interrupting, by and then I've been told it doesn't really say that. It's out of context. You're damn right it's out of context. It's called a quotation. It is out of context.
No, right, but I'm saying that within the context of that piece. But look,
FBI clears Trump before Mueller probe. That's the headline.
That's not the exact headline, but let's say it is.
I know it's not, but it should be.
That's not the headline. But that's why I push back. That doesn't make me unfair. That's the job.
I just learned that the word lead is spelled L-E-D-E.
Yes.
Jeez. Because somebody came on Fox and said, the lead is buried.
And if the president writes the word lead, L-E-E-D or L-E-A-D, and I say it's L-E-D-E, is that me being unfair? Because that's what you guys say. You say, why are you chasing after the president for these kinds of things?
Depends on whether I like you that day or not.
And I know that's.
I gotta go, Chris.
I know you do.
I gotta go do my job as a lawyer.
You've been very helpful in coming here to help us understand where your head is.
It hasn't been good. It hasn't been good for people feeling you're going to get a fair hearing, though. I got to tell you. I got to be honest with you. I like it.
All the time you've had today to make the points that you want to make, you got questioned about them to justify your basis. That's the definition of fairness, by the way.
Okay. Okay, that's good. I can live with that, but a lot of people can't.
Well, as long as you're okay with it, I'm okay with it.
Look, I love it.
We
I'm
need
a lawyer.
You as part of the discussion.
This is what I do best. I am just thankful the president selected me because it's an honor to represent him. And you don't very often in my business get a chance to represent an innocent man.
You have said you think it's the most important case of your career.
No question.
So
for the country, not just
as we go forward, you are always welcome to an open invitation to make the case from the president's perspective.
I will absolutely make that point to everyone.
And I promise you, I'm always trying to be.
I know that, Chris.
All right. Rudy Giuliani, thank you for being here. Appreciate it. We will unpack all of the things that Rudy says he didn't get a chance to argue in this interview.
And then you got to deal with it. Right, well, I'm a knight of the empire, so I should be there.
All right. So I wasn't fair on that point. We'll be right back. You're no knight.